I'm Bob Butler. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Payrix, and now it's WorldPay for Platforms. I've spent the better part of the last 25 years in fintech and the last 4 years here at Payrix. Payrix is an innovative embedded fintech company, and we grew from 4 million to 100 million in ARR in 4 years. Ultimately, this led to a successful exit, and we just launched WorldPay for Platforms here at SaaStr today. So, yes. What I'd like to say is no matter where you are in your revenue journey, whether it's 100,000, 500,000, 5 million, 50 million, we've come up with a few tips to help you keep on growing and growing fast. Again, we did this at Payrix with an exceptionally small sales team and an even smaller marketing department. And I'm joined here today by my partner in crime in marketing, Katie Wickham.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. My name's Katie Wickham. I'm a marketing leader with a background in SaaS and fintech. I joined Payrix in 2019, shortly after we completed our Series A. Bob recruited me, and I couldn't say no. I live in Atlanta, and I'm also a dog mom and a foodie.
Well, our first strategy that we employed at Payrix was all about focusing on your ideal client. But first, Katie, what is an ideal client profile?
Sure. Well, your ideal client profile, or ICP for short, is defined by the firmographic, environmental, and behavioral attributes of companies that are expected to be your most valuable customers. So for us, we started in our first year with just the broad strokes of what we thought our ICP was. And then, in that first year, we brought on a couple of customers, and we talked to a ton of potential customers. And through qualitative and quantitative analysis, we were able to get a lot more specific about who our ICP was. And getting to your ICP is a foundational and organization-wide decision because it impacts your downstream sales and marketing efforts.
So Katie, tell us a little more about why we need an ICP.
Sure. Very important because it aligns your product, sales, marketing, service, and executive teams to all focus on your highest value accounts. And with all of those groups focusing on the same thing, you're able to get to a place where you're creating scalable and repeatable tactics and strategies that allow you to engage your ICP and convert them quickly.
Awesome.
Bob, I think you've got some success stories of companies.
I do have a few ICP success stories. Now, everybody knows Brex. You can't miss them if you've walked into the conference today. They're founded in 2017, and their original ICP focus were providing business credit cards to startups and technology companies who struggled to find credit. Now, full disclosure, I am a huge fan of Brex. Early in our days, we needed to pay the AWS bill. We needed to go traveling, and I didn't want to use my personal credit card to make that happen. So what's most impressive about Brex is in 5 years, they've gone from this $120,000 pre-seed round to a Series D at a $12 billion plus valuation. Let's see. Our next example is Shopify. Now, everybody knows Shopify, but what you might not know is Shopify started as Snow Devil. It was an online snowboarding shop, and the founders started it out of frustration that there were no easy tools to set up an online e-commerce store. So they identified that as their ICP. They went out and built an entire ecosystem around that. And in 2013, they launched Shopify Payments. It's an embedded payment tool built for their customers. It's now the largest piece of their business. Now, Shopify went public in 2017, and today they have, I think, depending on the market, I know it didn't go well today, they should have a market cap of about 40 billion. And then finally, a small customer of ours called Field Routes. Now, these guys started in 2009 by two guys who owned their own extermination business. And there were no tools for people that owned their own extermination business back in 2009. The original name of the company was called Pest Routes. And their ICP was simple. It was independent owner-operators of pest control businesses. Mostly those operators that served residential homes. In 2020, they also embedded financial services and payments into their application. And in 2021, the company expanded into lawn care and snow removal and a couple of other things. And they changed their name to Field Routes. January of this year, they had a successful exit to Service Titan. The key thing that each of these companies had, and we think we had it also, was a relentless focus on their ideal client. So product, technology, marketing, sales, and support. They had a laser sharp focus on that led them to this success and clearly a tremendous increase in total enterprise value. Now, Katie, what was the second strategy that we utilized when at Payrix?
Sure. So tip number 2 is about developing and executing an anchor tenant strategy. So I was not super familiar with this when I joined Payrix, but now I am. When I think of anchors, I think of security or reinforcement. So I bought a house this year, and I have spent a ton of time hanging curtain rods and various things on the walls. So super familiar with the fact that screws need anchors for reinforcement against the wall. Just like a boat needs an anchor or an investment portfolio needs an anchor, your SaaS business is no different. You have to think of your anchor tenant as reinforcement or added security. So what I mean is find 2, 3, or 4 customers and do everything you can to execute for them like crazy so that you build a super strong relationship with them. And you have to think of these customers as your most important tenants and ones that you absolutely can't afford to lose. Bob, you have a pretty fun example on the next slide. Go ahead.
Okay, I think the easiest way to understand the anchor tenant strategy is your hometown mall. So mall developers have been using this anchor tenant strategy forever. Every decent sized mall has 3 to 8 anchor tenants. They're the retailers that draw in all the other retailers. So if you think about back to the 1990s, you had JCPenney would be the anchor tenant, Sears, Sports Authority. And then we move it up into the 1990s, you had Belk, Bed Bath & Beyond, and I'm sure a lot of you can remember how popular Abercrombie & Fitch was for getting people into the stores. And then in 2010s, we upscaled it a bit. I think we went with Nordstrom was a big anchor tenant, Dick's, and obviously the Apple Store. Again, this is all about that mix of customers. And for a SaaS company, what we recommend is find a few key customers. Katie mentioned it, execute like crazy, help them grow, make them your marquee customers. Having these anchor tenants in place allow you to sharpen that ICP, all while creating referral source for additional business for your company. So the way we deployed it was pretty simple. We identified our ICP. We engaged with a few key ICP type clients. And then we went out and signed a few. And we landed them. We executed like crazy. We delighted them. And we used those relationships to leverage and expand for future customers in our addressable market. So Katie, can you talk to us a little bit about how we did this at Payrix?
Yeah. Well, our ICP is a cloud business management platform that is focused on a specific vertical. So think field services, nonprofit, construction, property management, things like that. And they've got about 10 to 500 employees, and they serve small to mid-sized businesses. So once we had that, I call it a cookie cutter shape of our ICP, we were able to go after platforms that fit into that mold. So a platform for self-storage facilities, a marketplace for online auctions, a software for roofing contractors, and a CRM for nonprofits. And once we had these targets, we engaged them, and we did everything we could to delight them and build a really strong relationship with them. And soon after, they became our biggest fans and advocates, and we were able to call on them for sitting in on prospect conversations to serve as references and giving input on our brand strategy and a ton of different customer content like blogs and customer stories and podcasts and white papers.
I mean, for context, everyone, in the first year we were running the show over there, we signed 8 platforms. And by the time we exited, we were doing 8 to 10 platforms a month. Now we're doing even more. So finally, Katie, what's number 3?
Sure. Last but not least is about enhancing your platform in a meaningful way. So you've spent all this time and effort building this really amazing relationship with your customers, and you find in the process that you've gotten to know them super well. So you know their challenges, pain points, goals, aspirations, even their personal and professional motivators. And you have to use this to your advantage because it's an opportunity to continue making your customer the hero through more focused innovation. So, obviously, when you add something to your platform, it's a lot better when it allows you to make more money. We believe that value-added services like embedded payments or embedded lending or banking will not only offer your platform more revenue, but it's super attractive to potential investors because it increases total enterprise value, lowers customer cost of acquisition, and increases net revenue retention, which obviously huge home run. So on the next slide, I wanted to walk through one of my favorite examples of customer-centric innovation. Any Slack enthusiasts? No? Yes? Couple? Hey, yes. Well, Slack's the first company that comes to mind. It could be the fact that our company moved from Slack to Teams earlier this year, and it's still a bit of a fresh wound for me. But I can tell you, even though we're not customers or users anymore, I'm still a huge fan of what they're doing. So last year, when Slack was acquired, they were acquired for $28 billion on the heels of 43% year-over-year growth. It was the largest acquisition in Salesforce history. And I really feel strongly that the reason that was because how much they're incorporating user feedback constantly into how they innovate their business. So new features and functionality, building a wonderful online community, even down to how they respond to comments on social media. My take is that Slack is one that has gotten it right. Go ahead. Back to you.
So adding value-added services, is key to growing revenue and retention with your existing customers. And you get to do this without having to add any new additional customers. So we've got a customer that we've worked with for a while, LMN. They're a landscape business management platform founded by an amazing female entrepreneur in Canada in 2009. They're basically a complete CRM for landscaping professionals. Now, what they did was they focused on their ideal client. which in their case were a few large landscaping businesses. And those became their anchor tenants. They ultimately expanded to smaller lawn care and landscaping professionals. And in 2021, they added embedded payments and then added embedded lending. Both of those drove additional revenue for LMN, but it also increased the value to that customer, especially the lending piece. I mean, even in 2022, the company is, they have an entire human resource planning tool which helps their customers find, hire, and retain talent. The key here for LMN, or really for any SaaS business, is to create more value to your customers, increase your own retention and stickiness, and allow for a truly differentiated solution. So I think the key takeaways are: know exactly who your ideal customer is, and then do everything you can to build your entire business around that customer, from product development, technology, marketing, sales, and especially support. And in our case, the most important thing that we did was execute, execute, execute. We think you should treat your early customers like royalty. They can be your strongest and most fierce advocates, and it's proven that way for us. And then finally, always find ways through innovation to expand the size of your revenue pie and increase customer stickiness. We think that embedding payments and other financial services like banking and lending into your offering is the best way to go and help you increase not only net revenue retention, but grow to $100 million in ARR.